So should married couples have joint bank accounts? Hey, it's Dustin from stayathomedustin.com, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So my wife and I, we just got married, and we're still considering this, wondering if it makes sense to combine our finances into one joint bank account or not. I think we're leaning towards doing it, but I'm still kind of doing some research, and this is what I kind of found about the topic. There's definitely pros and cons to each. For example, if you have a joint bank account, it can streamline your finances, but it also makes it messier if you ever get a divorce or your partner decides to separate. So I'm going to go over kind of the pros and cons of having a joint bank account here, and I'll talk about some other stuff. And if you want to see more, you can go to my blog that I wrote about this. So it's stayathomedustin.com/joint accounts. I'll have even more detail there if you want to learn more after this video. So what are the pros of a joint bank account? First is transparency. So it's useful for seeing where the money goes and getting a good idea of your partner's spending habits. So both people can be aware of any irresponsible spending before it kind of escalates into a big debt. Having a joint bank account is also easier to manage. Both of your paychecks go into one account. All the bills come out of one account, so you see exactly what goes in, what goes out. It gives you a better idea of your overall financial situation, and you spend less time kind of tracking your monthly expenses and deciding who needs to pay what. The next big pro is equality. So it encourages income sharing. It changes from being like my money to more of like an our money kind of situation. It just gives you more of like a cohesive and united feeling to your relationship when it comes to money, and you have more trust in each other. And also an increased reward points. So if you collect air miles or cash back on purchases, you'll get twice as much. And since your annual spending amount is higher, you might also qualify for a better credit card. For example, some cards, they might have like a gold or platinum version, but it has a minimum spend, like say $10,000 a year that you have to get. So if you have two people on the same card, it'll definitely help you work towards that. So there's some of the pros of a joint account. Let's talk about some of the negative things now. So combined financial identity. All of your money is in the joint account, so you're no longer building your own credit score or maintaining your own financial identity. So if there's any hits to your credit score as a couple, it affects you even if you get divorced afterwards. A joint bank account can also be unfair if you don't have equal assets. So if one partner comes with a ton of like stocks, bonds, inheritances, properties, if they own a business or something, the other person might only be bringing debt and credit card balances to the relationship, and that can kind of be unfair to the other person. So if there's that much disparity and you're worried about things getting split 50-50 if you get a divorce, then I'd recommend getting a prenup. And speaking of divorce, I touched on this earlier, but if you get divorced or separated, having all the money in one bank account makes things harder to separate. Plus, if you have like a really spiteful partner, they can withdraw all the money out of the account without you knowing, and it might be too late to do anything by the time they've spent it all. It's kind of a little thing, but having a joint bank account means no surprises, which that might be a good thing, but when it comes to buying like anniversary or Christmas gifts, it might not be good, because if your partner looks at your bank statement, they can see exactly what you've been shopping for, like what stores you've been in and exactly how much you've been paying. So the idea of buying gifts for each other is just a bit weird when you're kind of tapping in the same account of money too. And that kind of goes along with a lack of privacy or independence. So you might feel uncomfortable sharing all of your financial details with your partner, and it can sometimes lead to a relationship conflict as well. So the lack of privacy obviously means there's more room for bickering and complaints about small purchases. Like say if you buy a coffee on the way to work every day, you might have to explain yourself to your partner. And yeah, so that's the main pros and cons that I'll go over for now. There's more you can read if you want, but one option is to use a joint account and a separate account. It's a good compromise, so each person can keep their own account, but then you have like a joint account that all of your bills come out with. through there. So that's one way to do it. The only thing is that you have to worry about transferring money every month, so that can be a bit of a pain. And the other big thing is that whether you have a joint bank account or not, it makes sense to set financial goals and expectations with your partner. So think about how you manage everyday spending like gas, groceries, eating out. You should think about how much you want to put into savings or investments every month. If one person comes to the relationship with debt, are you going to pay that off together, or is it going to be their responsibility to cover their own debt? And if one person earns way more than the other, are you going to put strictly 50-50 into the account? Or say if one person earns 70% of the money, are they going to contribute 70% of the expenses? Things like that. If your partner isn't trustworthy, like for example, if they have a history of gambling or drug problems or past financial difficulty, they have poor decisions making when it comes to money, you might want to take that into consideration, as well as what each person's credit score is. So that's the main things that I wanted to touch on today. Like I said, if you want to read a bit more detailed about the subject of joint bank accounts for married couples, you can go over to stayatHomeDustin.com/joint accounts. I'll have a link below as well. And if this was helpful, I'd appreciate if you give me a like. And if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you next time.